Okay, so my question actually concerns my mother. My mother's actually been through quite a bit,
Yes.
and quite a bit of suffering. And I guess just some main things would be losing two of her sons, one at the age of 8 in a traumatic accident, um, coming to America and having the people that she trusted abandon her, um, suffering a brain tumor, being on like 7 pills a day, severe emotional abuse. And you talk about how suffering often breaks open the shell of the ego. And it really seems that my mom's even more attached to thinking and more strongly identified with her ego. And it's almost like she's a very gentle and kind person, but it seems like she's always lost in her thoughts. And they're not always bad thoughts, but if you you do the impressions of people who are lost in thought, where they're like always looking around, and you say something, and they're like, oh, okay. And so that's basically what happens. And so I'm not exactly sure how to approach it because, it's just a fairly different situation.
Yes. Thank you. So you don't know what to do?
Yes.
Well, I would say there's nothing you can do except be with her, be present with her, and what she can't do for herself, you can do for her. So she cannot be, at this moment yet, she cannot be there the presence for her mind. She cannot have the awareness that is aware of what her mind is doing. Her mind, she's identified with deep-seated forms of conditioning and probably pain body. Perhaps collective pain body is part of it. People, I don't know what country was she born in?
India.
Yeah. So it could well be that collective pain body is part of it. Every country also has its pain body, and the individual's pain body is partly part of the collective pain body. You have to supply the awareness that she at this time is lacking. So usually what we tell the person to do, well, there's not a doing, it's just be aware of your mind. Be the witness of your mind. Be there as the witnessing consciousness, so that you become aware of your mind patterns, so that you're no longer totally trapped in your mind patterns. Now, if you tell that to her, that probably won't work. Maybe you've tried.
I have.
So you probably said, can you be there as the witnessing consciousness? And she said,
I've tried to be there for her. And maybe she might be complaining about something, and I'll just listen, and she'll say, well, what are you doing? Just sitting there and listening. It's just.
Well, and then you say, I hear what you're saying. I'm listening. I'm just listening. It's fine. I'm listening what you're saying. It's good. So you can be the secondary awareness, because if she can't do it, somebody's close to you. Hold the aware presence for her, so to speak. Don't ask for any results. It's not a means to some end. It's a satisfying and kind and beautiful and healing thing to do. To use the word do, it's not really a doing. You hold the presence, the aware presence, while her mind is doing what it does, and her emotional body is doing what it does. Instead of thinking, she shouldn't be going through all this, stop doing that, why doesn't she? No, allow her to do what she does in the same way that you would allow your mind to do what it does, but just being aware. Be there as the awareness. Hold the space of awareness for her. You hear that?
Yeah.
Now, she's Indian. That there may be some opening in her. I have observed in Indian people, even people who are on the surface completely identified with their minds or materialistic. In many, many Indian people, there is an opening somewhere towards spirituality. It may be hidden, but it's there. Well, there is an opening. No, not in everyone, but the opening is potentially there in everyone. But there's something that perhaps she can respond to within the tradition of Indian spirituality. Does she have any kind of practice? It might just be an external, outward practice.
Well, she does. She says that she does meditate before she sleeps because it calms her down. Otherwise, she's always thinking about things, and sometimes she just doesn't sleep the entire night. But she says she tries to meditate. She doesn't always succeed at it, but she tries.
Well, that's a start. Perhaps you can tell her that she can also meditate just for a few seconds or half a minute in normal life. Perhaps you can ask her whether she can feel the energy inside her hands. She may not want to do that, but you can try a few things, but mainly be there as the presence. Now, don't say I've been doing that for years and it hasn't worked.
I mean, I've tried to introduce her to the teachings, and one of the things that I notice is she takes lots of medication.
Yes.
And some of it's stuff like steroid medication and just lots of medication that affect her focus. So she can't really focus very well on maybe her hands or her breath. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, she has to take those medications to live. So I mean, with all that brain fog and everything, I mean, do you think that there's any hope? I mean, is it just consistently suffering?
It's just she can't surrender to life. She's not able to do it, but you have to do it for her. This is the only way for humans who are not ready yet, the humans that are close to you. You have not surrendered yet for her, but you can do that. If you were surrendered for her, it would be fine. You would be at peace. And if any healing is possible, it will happen in that way. It can come through you. But you need to surrender to the way she is now. Complete acceptance. With complete acceptance comes an energy field of peace. With the energy field of peace comes the possibility of grace and healing. But when you surrender, you don't surrender as a means to an end. You don't surrender in order for her to get better. That's not true surrender. You just surrender to the way. I had to do it for my mother. My mother, occasionally I try to point her to the present moment or feeling the energy in her body. Once or twice she had brief moments of stillness, and you can suddenly feel light coming through, aliveness coming through. Some years ago she was visiting me. She was still alive 10 years ago or so, and I remember she was visiting me and talking about her. I had forgotten how much humans talk because I was living alone at the time, and her mind never stopped, and there's problems and I knew all I could do was be there as the aware presence for her. And after 4 or 5 days, For a minute she stopped talking. And there was a moment of stillness. And after the moment of stillness, she said something that wasn't part of her usual record that was playing itself again and again and again. After the moment of stillness, she looked at me and said, "Isn't it strange? We are born and then we die." That's a deep insight. This was the beginning of all philosophy, the beginning of all spiritual quest. And she had that, the strangeness of our short-lived sensory physical existence. Before she was totally identified with it, and after also, but there was a momentary opening. Isn't it strange? We're born. I mean, that's a moment of grace. And then the clouds came back. And they stayed until the end, unfortunately. I had to surrender to that without demanding that my mother should awaken spiritually. I surrendered to the fact that that was where she was at. And it became very painful as the years passed. Her body became more and more dysfunctional, and she became more and more unhappy with it. She regarded old age as a personal misfortune that she was afflicted with, and I tried to tell her, it is not personal, it's old age, it happens to everybody. Yes, but not in this way, not like that. It's terrible. It was the pain she generated. Psychological pain was far greater than the discomfort and pain she suffered on the physical level. And the fear of what might happen to her, the fear of not being able to walk at all anymore, the fear of losing her eyesight, the fear of this, the fear of that, far greater suffering than any physical suffering that she suffered. And yet, except for one or two rare moments, there was no transformation, and I was at peace with it. I surrendered. I allowed her to be the way she is, to manifest that state of consciousness, and I could sense the being underneath that. I can sense that. If you can sense that being that is underneath all the density, the emotional density of the mind, and hold that. The rest is surrender. I did not succeed, except I surrendered. So, since I did not succeed with my mother in any other way, I cannot give you any more advice than that. I myself couldn't do it.